Hi, I'm going to talk about 17 metrics to accelerate delivery without damaging your culture. I'm Yishai Beeri with LinearB, a software delivery intelligence startup. So, you're thinking about introducing metrics and starting to measure your dev process. You may be thinking, oh, if I do this, my developers are going to be angry. They don't want to be measured. You don't want to introduce a problem into your culture. And frankly, you may not even know where to start. Like, what do I measure? We all know that if we measure the wrong things, we're going to get the wrong outputs. So how do I approach introducing metrics and measuring my dev process without introducing all these problems? So let's take a look at the few things that you should not be doing and the few things that are anti-patterns. The first thing you should avoid is the focusing on individual devs. You do not want to stack rank your developers or to measure some metric that tries to say this developer is better than the other. It's very hard to really capture the value a developer brings through raw metrics, and it's probably the wrong thing to do. That will almost certainly introduce culture and morale problems. Just thinking that one or two silver bullet metrics are going to solve all your problems is again an anti-pattern. If you're only capturing, a single metric, you're only capturing one part of the dev process, it becomes easy to game, and you should really be thinking about metrics that cover enough of the dev process to be meaningful and to allow you to get a balanced improvement or a balanced change of behavior across the various parts of your development process. You may think that let's just use whatever is easy to measure, like code lines or number of comments or even number of pull requests. It's pretty obvious why that's not the right direction. You measure the wrong things. You're going to improve these wrong things. That's not going to give you the output that you want. That's not going to really drive improvement in your dev process. Finally, you may be thinking that metrics are something for the managers, right? Yeah, give me a dashboard. Let me see some numbers without maybe additional context and just raw metrics. I'll see a problem in the metrics. I'll work with the team to improve it and rinse and repeat. It's a okay place to start, but if you stop at metrics with managers and you're not introducing workflows and additional context, and you're not pushing down that context all the way to the developers, your improvement or your utilization of metrics is going to be bounded. And I'm going to show some examples. So what are the 17 metrics that I look at every single week and that I suggest you also start with when looking at your measuring your dev process? Let's begin with delivery efficiency. Everyone wants to deliver new features, right? We all want our teams to be fast, to deliver new stuff, new cool stuff that brings value to our users and customers. So we're looking for metrics that are a good proxy for the value that has been delivered. So the first place to start, I would say the first go-to is cycle time. This is a pretty well-known metric, a modern metric that focuses on the process and focuses on the team. It's not a metric of a single developer, rather of how the team works. And cycle time is a way to measure how fast the team is able to take work items from start to finish. It's not a measure of how many work items were done or the output, but like an RPM measure of an engine, how fast does my engine run? How fast does the team go through work items? And we measure from the first activity on an item, the first commit on a branch, all the way until that code has been reviewed, merged, and deployed. That means the work is done. This code is now in the hands of users and delivering value. So it's been shown in various research. There's the Accelerate book, Dora metrics, and various others, that cycle time is a great way to understand the efficiency of the team. Teams that are able to drive cycle time down and have a consistently short cycle time are able to reduce a lot of context switching, are able to reduce risk during the delivery. smaller PRs, shorter reviews, easy small chunks to deploy and roll back if needed. And looking at cycle time is a great way to identify where we have bottlenecks in our process. Maybe we don't have enough people reviewing code, or they're not doing that fast enough, and that is a bottleneck where people just wait for their code to get reviewed. Maybe we don't have the best deploy mechanisms, and it takes a lot of time for code that gets accrued, gets merged, but not deployed. And that is a different kind of bottleneck. So cycle time is a great way to identify that, and is a great way to start where measuring your team. Since cycle time is so important, the next metrics are going to be focusing on the phases or the 4 segments within cycle time. So the first one is coding time. Between the first commit and up until the PR or MR is ready for review. This is basically the developer working on a task, and this is dominated by having tasks that are too large, trying to do too many things in a single PR or a single task, and sometimes by requirements not being very clear. So if we're able to drive or chunk our work to have smaller chunks, make sure that our requirements are great upfront, we can drive coding time down and minimize that time where the developer is working on new code. This is always risk. Minimize that, use much smaller items. This will help you and the team push forward much faster with new value. Second is the PR pickup time. My PR is ready. It's waiting to be reviewed. Pickup is basically how long does it take for someone to begin reviewing it. This is all about communication and attention between our teammates. Am I efficiently letting people know that I'm waiting for their reviews? Do they have an efficient way to know that they have reviews to do? Are they able to smartly allocate time to do that without suffering from too many context switches? Shorter PR pickup times mean that the comments are going to the feedback is going to come back to the original coder while the code is still fresh in their minds, while they maybe only a few hours have passed and not a few days. Again, making it much easier to get back to make the final changes needed and push the code through the process. The PR review time talks about the whole coordination and communication between the team members during the review process and up until the code is ready to be merged and everyone is in agreement that this can be merged. So again, this is about communication, about attention, and about the quality of the coding to begin with. If I have to rewrite everything and the code review is requiring me to rewrite everything, that's obviously going to be a long review process. So by having a tight communication, having the team members again being effective in those handoffs between code, additional comments, additional commits, and changes and final agreement, that is a phase that we want to make tight, that we want to make efficient and make it short. Finally, deploy time, which measures the time from the merge and up until the code is in production. This is helping us understand how long does the code, which is basically finished, how long does it wait in my code base without providing value. So having better processes around CI and CD, having better tests and underlying automation that allows me to deploy more frequently will reduce the deploy time. And pretty much every modern team knows that the more frequently you deploy, the faster you deploy, the less risk you have, and the faster you learn from the code changes that you've made. So these are the 4 phases or segments of cycle time. I talked about workflows, and here's a great example. So it's one thing to have metrics around cycle time. In this case, metrics around PR pickup time. I may be looking at a metrics dashboard and identifying that the pickup time is too high for my team, then doing a retrospect move with the team to think about how we can improve it. That's great. But you can do much better if you're also introducing workflows. So this example shows an alert that reaches the team Slack channel in real time about a pull request that is languishing and waiting for being picked up. This lets the team know, oh, it's been 2 days since this PR went up. The team can respond organically while this PR is still waiting, start reviewing it, and basically prevent the problem from reaching the metrics, prevent the problem from becoming a metrics problem. Being able to respond in real time to these cases really helps the team slash down pickup in other parts of the cycle time and really improve their cycle time to elite state. The sixth metric I'm going to talk about is deployment frequency. Again, a very well-known and very important metric to understand how frequently is the team deploying new code to production, giving new value to users. Eventually, all the value is delivered when you deploy. Nothing really happens before that. So being able to frequently deploy instead of bundling deploys to, instead of deploying once in a week or 2 or 5, if we're able to deploy multiple times a day, we are delivering value faster, we are reducing the risk of those deploys, and we are improving our learning loop. Our new code is in the hands of users, is bringing value to someone, and we can learn from that. All this is not happening if all of this new code is just merged, but waiting for a future deploy. So measuring and increasing deployment frequency is key. Having talked about the efficiency, I also want to look at quality. I don't want the team to be running, very, very fast, but delivering low quality. So, if we only build things and we're not making sure that these are robust, that we have great quality, that's going to quickly become the number one pain. So a few metrics that help me understand quality. 7 and 8 are going to be rework and refactor ratios. When I look at the code that the team has been pushing to the code base, we can look at how much of that code is new code lines, new value, additions to the code base. This is what we call new work. Code that is replacing existing code is split between refactor, which is basically replacing old code with new implementations. This is typically enhancements to non-functional areas or re-architecting. We may be adding some, parameters to a function or improving some API or otherwise rewriting old parts of our code. But if we are rewriting new parts of the code, which we call rework, when those new code lines replaced code that has only been committed to the code base 2 or 3 weeks ago, that is rework. And that is a signal of code churn. It is a signal of either areas in the code that are hard to modify or needs to be modified whenever someone adds anything new. Any new feature or bug fix always requires me to modify that. And then those code lines get modified again and again frequently. Or it can be an indicator of having recent bugs. If we had buggy sprints, we did not do our great work in quality, and we are quickly then fixing those bugs which we discover, then that is going to cause the rework rate to go up. So by keeping track of these metrics, we can find and remove quality issues. We can find and preempt quality hotspots in our code by refactoring. If we identify that we are reworking some areas in the code over and over again, we can choose to refactor those and remove that bottleneck or hotspot. So these metrics help us keep track of our quality. A workflow kind of example here is around risky branches and PRs. This is an alert that again goes out to the team on the Slack channel and focuses on large code changes, so large PRs with a lot of changes that also have a high rework and refactor ratios. So combining multiple metrics here to signal those PR, which those PRs have elevated risk. They're large and they're changing a lot of existing code. That combination is risky. So by letting the team know, we are able to maybe allocate some more people to review those PRs, maybe make sure we have enough for additional tests around them, or otherwise mitigate and handle that elevated risk in these specific PRs. And again, by embedding this in a workflow as an alert sent to the team gets a chance to address this and mitigate this before this becomes a metrics conclusion 2 or 3 weeks down the road. Another kind of metric or workflow alert here is around PRs that are merged without review. Either any PR that is merged like that, or combination of large PRs that are above some size and have been merged without review. Again, this is a risky case. Some teams completely prevent that. Some teams are not able to prevent that completely, but want to keep track of those cases. And again, give the team a chance to mitigate. So if this happened, maybe someone needs to take a post-merge review, take another look at what went into the code base, and decide if we need to roll back or we need to add tests, or just give this another look and make sure that everything is okay. And then finally, looking at the review depth metric is a way for us to make sure that we are not just ticking a checkbox with our reviews, but we're actually looking at the code, providing meaningful comments. This looks at the number of comments made on our reviews on average, and is a good indicator of the quality of the process. Are we actually trying to provide value and go deep in our code reviews, and not just take a cursory look and say, okay, this looks okay, let's approve it. So having looked at our efficiency and quality, we now want to look at our prioritization and focus. We have a bunch of things to do. Are we working on the right things? Are we what are we investing in? So investment profile is a metric or a composite kind of metric that lets us understand, what are we working on? What is the team working on? Are we working on bugs? Most of our time spent doing quality, or are we able to allocate enough of our time and actual work to go towards functional new value? Are we doing enough non-functional investment to make sure that we are preparing for tomorrow's new features? So looking at investment profile lets us understand how our time is spent, how that is changing over time and trending, and make sure that we are aligned with our priorities, the type of project we're working on, and where we should be investing. Another important view lets us understand context switching and what are people working on? Are they able to focus on the important items, or does someone need to go back and forth between items, maybe working on an important story and then having to go and fix a crucial bug and then going back to the story and then being pulled away for another bug? So this timeline view lets us see what a developer or the team has been working on day after day across all of their issues or Jira tickets or whatnot, and understand the focus and the ability to start and finish things, or the need, or maybe improvements we can make in our scheduling of work to make sure that we are reducing context switching. We all know that context switches are the bane of developer productivity. Another two important views or metrics, pieces of context to look at, are shadow work or undocumented work. A lot of dev teams use a ticketing system like Jira or GitHub issues, GitLab issues, and many others to track what they should be working on, and connect or somehow correlate their work in Git to those tickets. Being able to see the Git work, those PRs and branches and commits that are done outside of those tickets that are not linked to any required piece of work, is a crucial piece in understanding what is the entire context or entire set of things that my team is working on. So looking at those branches and PRs that are not linked back to Jira, not linked back to my requirements is key to understanding what we are actually working on. And by looking at the timeline view, we can also see for those important issues that are the key, that they may be the success criteria for my sprint, or the very high priority items, are we actually devoting enough focus and attention for them day in, day out? So this example here shows a few days gone by and nothing happening on this important issue. This is a signal for us that the team is spending their time in the wrong place, and we should at least be asking what is happening here that a few days are not seeing any progress being done on that item. And then finally, while looking at all the efficiency and quality and making sure that our focus is in the right place, it's also crucial to focus on the team health, like the single developers and the entire team. Are we burning out? Do we have people with too many things and juggling between too many priorities? So two metrics here. One is the WIP count and the other is the number of days worked. Give us good indication into these questions. So WIP basically counts how many items or work items does every developer have currently in the air. These are branches with recent commits, PRs that have not been merged yet, things that are in play, and basically the higher this number, the more juggling and context switching the person has to do. This is not conducive to developer well-being. It's not productive as well. And making sure that this is balanced across the team and we don't have people with too many things in the air is important. The other metric around days worked is basically a way for us to see, are people stepping away from the keyboard during the weekends, or are they committing code or doing code reviews and other kinds of contribution day in, day out, including weekends, including holidays, and so on. When that happens, we have a burnout indicator, which lets us, try and address this by talking with our teammates, by making sure that people actually take time off and keep a balance between the important work they do at work and having non-work time and non-work days where they can recharge, take care of their family, take care of their personal lives. These two metrics, to me, are the most important, where if you're not able to ensure your team and your individual developers are healthy, they have a healthy approach to work, and you're giving them the message that, yes, they are expected to take the time off, take the weekends off, that it's important for the company, important for the team. By providing that message, you are investing in your long-term success as a team. And if the developers are better off, your productivity and your team productivity will soar. So for me, these are maybe the most important metrics that I focus on. So I've covered 17 metrics, and some of these in the form of workflows and automations. And I want to share some numbers. This is what we are seeing across our customer base for the cycle time metric, the first important metric that covers how quickly does the team deliver value. And by measuring these things and paying attention to them and implementing workflows that help the team automatically or react to situations even before they become a problem in the metrics, you can see that teams are able to really drive tremendous improvement, slashing down cycle time by 4x within a few short months by just measuring and reacting to those measurements and adding workflow elements to their development process. So very, very doable, very, very improvable, but you need to start. So if you haven't started and you're not doing metrics and you're not measuring your dev process, my very simple advice for getting started is to just get started. You don't have to, go with a whole 17 metrics. It's great to start with 1 or 2 and then improve by adding more. But going from 0 to 1, starting to measure, pick 1 or 2 metrics that are, not dev-centric, they're team-centric, that are focusing on the process. And there are some great set of examples which I gave today. Just get started, start measuring, start improving. I'm inviting everyone to join our Dev Interrupted community of 1,500 dev leaders talking about everything that is of interest for dev leaders. Or learn about starting a metrics program for your dev team or dev org with our runbook. Or even simply just, jumping on our free LearnerB for dev teams, start measuring your cycle time, your basically all these 17 metrics that I've shown and more. Self-register, start for free. We're waiting for you here. Thank you.